Hello all, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Wilson To, Worldwide Lead for Healthcare, Life Sciences, and Genomics at Amazon Web Services. We've seen an unprecedented change across the entire industry as organizations work together to address the global pandemic this past year. Much of this has accelerated the clear direction for health and care for individuals and populations all around the world. And that's really around the power as well as promise of personalized health. Amazon is arguably the most customer-centric company in the world. Our founder, Jeff Bezos, has built Amazon on three big ideas, and we've really had those stick over across the past 20 years in order to build Amazon Web Services for our healthcare and life sciences business. The first is to put the customer first and at the center of everything that we do. We start every process with the customer and work backwards from them. The second is to invent on behalf of our customers. And if we want to be inventive, we have to be willing to fail. The third is to be patient with the outcome, and that's allowed us to be stubborn in our vision, but also very flexible in the details. And we are very comfortable with being misunderstood. Our view at Amazon is if we remain obsessed with our customers, understand them and their businesses as well as they do, and innovate in collaboration with them, the business will take care of itself. And in doing so, we've seen customers use the same technologies that Amazon.com has used to transform e-commerce and apply it to transform healthcare and life sciences all around the world. Customer obsession is really at the heart of our practice, and when we describe our customers, it truly does span the entire spectrum of care. We work very closely with healthcare organizations like health systems all around the world, whether they're academic medical centers, whether they're group practices. We work with national payers as well as health ministries. We work with life sciences organizations, whether they're biotech startups or global pharmaceutical organizations. We also work with medical device manufacturers, such as those that create medical imaging devices, to those that create medical-grade wearables. We work with genomics organizations to help sequence, store, and analyze multi-omic data. And lastly, we work with agriculture organizations that not only aim to improve crop yields, but ultimately how to make food more nutritious because it impacts individuals and populations all around the world. At the center of this shared mission across our customers and our partners is the healthcare consumer, and the work that we are doing to support the access and delivery of person-centered healthcare to drive improvement through the utilization as well as the digitization of health data all around the world to reduce costs and improve outcomes across the board. Over the past 15 years, AWS has helped remove that undifferentiated heavy lifting for organizations in their technologies in order for them to focus on that differentiated value creation for their end customers. So we've coupled a comprehensive portfolio of cloud services and solutions with world-class talent that covers the breadth and depth of healthcare, life sciences, and genomics, and have really developed a healthcare practice around this over the past 8 years to better serve our customers in each of those segments. We have industry experts that have driven digital transformation across health systems. We have those that have pushed the boundaries in discovering new biomarkers for disease detection. And we have leaders that have designed new approaches to support precision medicine at scale. This has allowed us to work very closely with our customers to not only understand where they're going, but also figuring out how we can work better and think bigger together. So not only do we supply foundational technology services that power organizations, whether it's around compute or storage or in analytics and machine learning, but we also continue to invent on their behalf, such as our portfolio of purpose-built healthcare services that cut across key areas like natural language processing, such as our services like Amazon Comprehend Medical, to transcription services for this industry, such as Transcribe Medical, that allow organizations to look across the unstructured data sets, whether it's in unstructured clinical notes, to those around clinical call centers, and find ways of deriving value and insights from that by transforming that unstructured data set to a much more structured format, and even mapping that to standard ontology terms that are globally adopted, such as ICD-10 or around RX norm. Another key area where we've made continued investments for our customers have been understanding how they can use FHIR data and drive interoperability all around the world, whether it's through some of the work that they've been supporting and implementing using Fireworks on AWS, or some of the work that they've been building on top of Amazon Health Lake, which allows them to not only store, tag, query, but also analyze Fire data in order to drive a much more data-driven approach to population health and individual care. These are not only new ways in which they're designing and modernizing and innovating across the healthcare space, but they're able to do so securely and reliably across a global infrastructure. So whether you need to deploy application workloads across the entire globe in a single clip, or if you want to deploy specific applications closer to where your end users are using various services that require single-digit millisecond latency, AWS does provide you with that cloud infrastructure when and where you need it. AWS has already expanded across 81 availability zones within 25 geographic regions all around the world. And the numbers do speak for themselves because there is no compression algorithm for experience. Yet through all that, security does remain job zero for us. So not only does AWS have the compliance and accreditations that span across a number of different programs and regulatory bodies all around the world, but customers are able to take advantage of the fact that there are shared learnings in that experience across over 1 million active customers that use AWS every single day. And with that, they're able to transform and accelerate some of the work that they're doing across their specific domains. For example, that's allowed us to really work closely with industry leaders to increase their pace of innovation, to really map that towards understanding how they can unlock the potential of health data and develop a much more personalized approach to not only therapeutic development, but also care. And that's resulted in the realization of how they can improve operational efficiency and really drive outcomes towards clinical and population health initiatives. We've worked closely with industry leaders such as Cerner to help transform towards a digital platform company to support their clinical as well as population health initiatives. We've worked with Change Healthcare to develop the next generation claims and payments network. We've also supported organizations like Moderna deliver mRNA drugs faster, such as what you've seen most recently with Zika as well as SARS-CoV-2 vaccine. And we've worked with organizations like Novartis to reinvent pharma manufacturing. Yet despite all of that, it's a subset of all the work that we're doing across the healthcare and life sciences industry. AWS is a trusted partner to this industry, mainly because AWS does provide that unmatched reliability, security, and data privacy that enables this highly regulated industry to increase that pace of innovation. Our scale, computing power, and deep expertise in this domain, coupled with the portfolio of purpose-built services, has really established AWS as the trusted partner for the healthcare and life sciences industry all around the world. Yet, despite all the names and all the work that you've seen with customers and partners that are building on AWS today, it really is just day one for all the different types of opportunities that we can work on together. The fact of the matter is, when we look at the reality of where we are today, healthcare consumers like you and I are always so beautifully and wonderfully dissatisfied. They're seeking healthcare experiences that look like experiences in other parts of their lives, one that's more personal and one where they are at the center of. For example, Amazon provides product recommendations for other items that might be of interest based on what you're buying. Netflix helps provide recommendations to help us figure out what's the next show or movie that they should watch based on our interests. And Lyft provides ways in which to connect you from where you are now to where you need to be. Customers expect these types of personalized services, not only in their healthcare journey, but also across how they're engaging with their own health. But the reality falls short. So I'm going to cover a few trends that we're seeing all around the world in the areas of personalized health and how customers are building and innovating to support these and address these. Guidelines for care, for example, are shifting from studies that are using heterogeneous patient populations with predefined characteristics and applying statistically significant outcomes from a general population to an individual for care planning. This is starting to shift more and more towards the use of an individual's own body as the guideline to better understand what is optimal for them. Multi-omics is becoming the new norm for helping organizations better understand not only the body itself, but how it reacts and how to best treat it. One initiative that stands out is some of the work that AWS is doing with Grail, a life sciences company that aims to develop blood tests to detect cancer early when treatment might be more successful. Grail is combining next-generation genomic sequencing with the state-of-the-art genomic analysis and machine learning built on AWS. This work is driving towards detecting cancer and cancer-derived signals from a patient's DNA. Grail is running one of the largest clinical research programs ever pursued in genomic medicine, and AWS enables Grail to ingest hundreds of thousands of records and genomic data sets and reliably store them and process them using a wide range of analytic and machine learning services to develop early detection products to demonstrate their clinical utility. Through a simple blood draw, their test can detect over 50 different cancer types with a very low false positive rate of less than 1% and identify where in the body the cancer is located within 93% accuracy. These are new ways in which we're using the body, specifically the genome, in order to help better understand how to individualize and personalize healthcare. Another example of some of the work that we're doing is with AstraZeneca and the work that is being driven out of the Center for Genomics Research. As they're implementing company-wide genomics initiatives, they're generating genomic data and analyzing that together with clinical data. Industry-leading genomics capabilities are used to power genomics and advanced analytics to guide key business decisions, including the identification of new drug targets, as well as providing new ways of supporting human target validation across the AstraZeneca pipeline. They have a bold ambition to analyze up to 2 million genomes by the year 2026, and up to 500,000 genomes will be sequenced from genomic samples collected from AstraZeneca's clinical studies today. With AWS, AstraZeneca supports running over 51 billion statistical tests in less than 24 hours and have facilitated already the delivery of genomic insights to more than 40 different drug discovery projects in 2020. Initiatives like this are not only accelerating drug therapeutic development, but also using the gene as a roadmap towards a much more personalized health experience and understanding drug targets and what is effective for those individuals, combining research as well as clinical deployment from bedside onwards towards an individual's own health. The second trend that we're seeing really relates to the personalization of the healthcare experience itself. It's all too often that physicians are data enterers and not given the opportunity to be better data users, to use data in a much more meaningful way, especially when we continue to see the volume of data increase, the variety of data increase, the veracity and velocity of data also increase, and those continue to rise. Clinicians want to be able to build empathy through their relationships with their patients for shared decision making, and patients want to be seen for the person in front of the clinician, not just data in front of a screen. So from ambient voice technologies being used to support clinician workflows and relationships in the exam room, to the use of machine learning to drive clinical decision support all around the world, the use of technology is starting to help bring together care teams as well as their patients. Earlier last year, Houston Methodist, for example, began working with AWS to find opportunities to bring digital transformation to patient care. With over 1.3 million clinical visits, as well as 89,000 surgeries per year, Houston Methodist was interested in using automatic speech recognition to create contactless solutions to improve patient safety, as well as improve the entire patient experience, all while enabling clinicians to interact with clinical applications in a much more seamless manner. The organization wanted to build using AWS ASR services such as Amazon Lex to help hospitals deliver a much more scalable, much more resilient and secure way of connecting physicians to their patients. And they wanted to start really in two areas. The first was in operating rooms, and the second was in ambulatory patient exam rooms. For their operating rooms, Houston Methodist wanted to allow their surgeons as well as support staff to interact with a digital voice assistant. That way they can use voice to query for allergies or patient medication lists that are derived off the patient's electronic health record, or find ways in which they're enabling clinicians to start and stop timers that were essential for the surgery or procedure itself. And lastly, they wanted to find ways of going through checklists in a much more seamless fashion using just their voice. In the second area, in patient exam rooms, for example, they wanted to enable new ways of driving towards capturing the dialogue between a clinician and patient in a secure and compliant manner. During an exam, for example, the dynamic conversation between the clinician as well as the patient can be transcribed and indexed for clinical relevance. And after the visit, a summary note of the interaction is automatically generated in real time and emailed to the patient, as well as inserted into the clinician's electronic health record inbox as a SOAP note. That way they can review it later to see how they can continue to take notes as well as drive towards improving patient outcomes. It's opportunities like this, using technology, that allow individuals to have much more meaningful conversations and discussions with patients around their care and drive towards a much more shared decision-making model. Another example that I wanted to bring up was some of the work that the National Health Service over in the UK is doing with AWS. The NHS Business Services Authority, for example, supports 450 call center staff that handles about 5 million calls per year with a range of routine requests for information around the European health insurance card. And as a result of that influx of different types of queries as well as questions that were generally frequently asked, they saw their response time starting to lag. The NHS BSA started driving towards and deploying a solution built on Amazon Lex as a chatbot that really helps understand what questions that are being asked, as well as what sort of answers to be able to reply to those individuals for. As a result of that, they were able to use AI to reduce incoming call volumes by as much as 40% for EHIC and really identify a cost savings of over $650,000 per annum in costs while reducing not only wait times but also improving the college experience because they didn't have to wait and got their questions answered pretty quickly. As some of the work that they saw, with many of the calls, about 75% of those calls were handled and resolved within 6 minutes. So as you can imagine, not having to wait on hold and waiting for your question to be answered, to finding new ways in which they're diverting some of the call volume from their staff members to this chatbot to get those questions answered. And this fundamentally transformed their call center not only workflows, but found new ways of using technologies to help improve the public service to a much more 24/7 model while reducing costs. And the beauty of this is they did this all in 2 weeks. So this is a testament to how builders can not only figure out how to innovate in the space to meet some of the challenging issues of their times, but find ways of using technology to address a much more population-based scale for how to improve not only individual experiences, but the model itself. The third area that I wanted to bring up really involves around how individuals are taking ownership of their health. And so more and more, healthcare is shifting beyond the walls of the hospital organization and beyond individual encounters in a patient's healthcare experience itself. As we see healthcare shift from a reactive treatment and care type of approach to one that is much more focused on proactive health and well-being, we begin to see how elements of our daily lives, the food we eat to the lifestyle choices that we make, are becoming determinants of our health and the healthcare journey itself that is necessary for us to better understand how to take better care of ourselves. The consumerization of healthcare has changed the entire healthcare journey for those individuals and have fundamentally transformed patients from passive recipients of healthcare to active participants in their own health. And healthcare consumers, at the end of the day, want to be educated, they want to be engaged, and ultimately they want to empower themselves to take ownership of their health. One example that I wanted to highlight for you to take a look at is the work that Propeller Health is doing in order to address chronic respiratory diseases. Propeller Health is a leading digital health organization dedicated towards making life better for every person with a chronic respiratory disease. So whether it's asthma, whether it's chronic obstructive pulmonary disease or COPD, they want to find ways in which they're able to use technology to improve clinical outcomes for patients through connectivity, analytics, and companion digital experiences. The Propeller platform itself is used by patients, physicians, and healthcare organizations all around the world. So whether in the US, in Europe, or in Asia, their solution provides providers an opportunity to monitor their patients remotely, stratify their patients based on risk, and really help drive towards a data-driven decision-making model on treatment. Propeller is made up of a small custom-built sensor that attaches to a patient's existing inhaler, for example, and connects to their smartphone via Bluetooth. And Propeller and the sensor itself senses when a patient takes their medication and delivers that insights and reminders to the Propeller app on their phone itself. The Propeller also communicates with the provider's patient's provider via their provider Bluetooth and provider portal in order to demonstrate, how a patient is doing as well as whether they need any sort of intervention. As they look towards combining new data sets and data models of understanding when a patient is using their inhaler, for example, they're also able to derive a much more risk-based approach based on different analyses and different data sets, such as the air quality index or what is going on environmentally, in order to help provide preventative health measures to, for example, stay indoors because the air quality index might be too dangerous for that individual. And so it becomes a much more proactive approach for not only engaging with individuals, but having them empower themselves to take ownership of their health using tools that are digital companions for what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. A second example is some of the work that we've seen with the work with MetroPlus Health, which is a health plan over in New York. As part of the response to the pandemic, the organization itself needed to find a way to address and engage with individuals that might be immunocompromised or those that might not be able to address and shelter in place safely through the pandemic last year. And so they worked to identify those high-risk individuals in their population base and engage with their members, sending over 10,000 SMS messages per day to understand whether an individual really needed to connect with various services, whether it was mental health services, food security networks, or find ways of doing telehealth, telemedicine visits, and connecting them with the right resources across the board. And through this, they were not only able to drive a 9% engagement across their membership base, but of those, 50% of those that responded asked for support. And so whether it was socioeconomic or clinical by very nature, they were able to address many of the critical concerns for those individuals in order for them to safely shelter in place. And so we're seeing engagement models like this really think of new ways in which they're able to transform how organizations are engaging and empowering their own populations in order to take ownership of their health. And we're seeing this scale more broadly across how population health measures or how outreach type initiatives are really starting to provide education material or provide engagement materials all around the world for organizations to connect with patients and members. These are all just some examples of some of the work that thousands of healthcare and life sciences customers are doing on AWS today. And as you can see, it's driving everything from advancing and accelerating new therapeutic developments to finding new ways of engaging and empowering individuals at a population level. I encourage each of us to consider the connective tissue across healthcare, life sciences, and genomics, and consider what's being done today and how it's driving innovation across and enabling personalized experiences, as well as personalized health at various stages across the industry. And it's evident that at the center of it all is the healthcare consumer, and how data can be used to drive a much more personalized and much more human experience through this. I wanted to thank you all for your time, and most importantly, thank you for all the work that you've done this past year to support a much more consumer-centric healthcare. I look forward to continue to collaborate with you all and innovate across this industry. Thank you again, and stay safe through this pandemic.